I know.
But no,
Another meeting is Johnson County.
Oh, yeah.
Monday.
Okay.
It'll be, joint or government meeting. I don't know what, I mean, I think it's supposed to be, but I don't know.
I would. And interest rates are 3%.
yeah,
You can wait.
I remember when we got that prayer meeting, Jason.
It's like you.
I'll be this American. Hold me aside.
Too long to change. It's all, so, all right, I'll see you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love that. So that's what they'll do. And that's what you. 2:15 and say that it's ready. And things are like, you don't. That's
Real. Thank you.
Thank you.
Twice in the last 6 months, they have one thing to do for the trust. I mean, it's not that we can't go back to like funding sources. Yeah, I'd like to be things, right? So we have plans to issue the fire truck next spring for the other things.
Yeah.
It's 6 o'clock and I'm calling this meeting to order. Good evening and welcome everyone. This meeting is now live on Zoom and also being recorded. The recording will be available on the city's YouTube channel. Just a reminder to the in-person audience, whether you're presenting or just commenting on an agenda topic, please come to the podium and wait to be recognized by the mayor stating your name. There is a 7-minute time limit. If participating by phone, please be sure to mute your phone. Non-agenda items can be presented under citizens not on the agenda, but will not be discussed by the council. Above all, please show courtesy and respect at all times. Thank you. Now, and if you will all rise, if able, and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On to roll call, please. Cindy, we can start. Cindy Anderson here.
I'm here. Dave on here.
Definitely. Marianne Wainwright absent. Moving on to item number 3, approval of the consent agenda. Council, you'll notice that we're starting to incorporate some modest changes in our procedures, and your consent agenda is a little bit lengthier than in the past. Any questions?
On G, when have we waived fees in the past?
I am not sure. I don't have a history of that, but Tina, who does manage a lot of the community rooms, said that the waiving of the fees can be done for nonprofits. Usually it's done for citizens of Fairfax, but in this case, she felt pretty comfortable since it was a public purpose for the legend. And we do have Sky Kelly on Zoom as well if you have questions.
If council, you do have opportunity if you want some discussion to move items off of the consent agenda for discussion. No further comments or questions. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Names. That'll move us on to item number 4, reports. Council, in your packet, do you have reports from the various departments? Do you have any questions on those reports before we move on?
No, I have a question for Eric, because I know I ask this almost every month. How are we on getting rental properties that aren't on the registry on there?
2 of them have been, are currently up for sale now, so. Those are on, I still have. About 6 left to go, so 2 of them got chased down. They admitted that they were on the rental, but it's too late, they got it up for sale and they're empty as we speak right now. Currently. So. The next 6 I'll go after, this next on the list. Sounds good.
Any other questions? On the department reports. We'll move on to number 5, which is considering a resolution awarding the general obligation corporate purpose bonds. And with us today, we've got Maggie Berger from Spear Financial.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Maggie Berger with Spear Financial. We have in front of you a letter that is asking you to award this evening $755,000 of general obligation corporate purpose bond series 2026 to Bankers Bank of Madison, Wisconsin at a true interest rate of 3.8486%. We did take bids today from 10:30 to 11 o'clock. We did have 2 bids received, that Bankers Bank bid and that Robert W. Baird bid. Both of them taking the 0.8% discount that they are allowed to take. That is how we sized the bond issue, with the anticipation that they could take that. On page 2 of our packet, you can see that the interest rates from Bankers Bank range from a 3.5 to a 3.75. That is slightly lower than what we've been seeing over the last 3 to 4 months in the market. We started to see this interest rate pattern about a month ago. We anticipate that it has to do with things going on just in the world, economy news, different things like that. And so we're happy to report the 3.8486% as that true interest cost. If you hold these bonds to maturity, you will pay interest of $168,016. The final debt service schedule is on page 3. That does lay out what debt will be paid and in what years. You see there is a line drawn under June 1st of 2033. That is the call feature. At that time or any time after that, you would be able to pay this debt off. You'd be able to pay it in part. So if you just had some money ahead, you also would be able to refinance it if interest rates are lower at that time. That is something that we always will monitor for the city, letting you know if there is true interest savings, because obviously doing an issuance of debt does take some costs. So we want to make sure that apples to apples, there is true interest saving. Also, I should remind you that when we do a refinance or a refunding, we never refund out longer than the original maturity. So again, if we're looking at 2% rates in that 2033 timeframe, it might be worth your while to refinance out till that 2036 maturity. It may not save you enough money at that point in time, depending on the interest rate. I'd answer any questions that you have. You will have action items in a couple of weeks to take action on. I believe that is possibly a special meeting that we've set up for one action item. And then this money will be in the city's account on August 12th.
Council, do you have any questions for Meg? You mentioned the call date on June 1, 2033, and we could pay in part. All of a sudden, are we able to pay more prior to that time?
You are not. So at that point in time, these are investments. So the investors want to know that they're going to hold that out there for a certain number of time. If you did not have a call feature in here, it said you could call at any time and pay anything off at any time, you would probably see 5% and 6% interest rates in those first couple of years. They want to know that they're going to make some money on that investment. But it's not to say that you can't set money aside for that call date. So a lot of cities in that situation may designate money in a fund balance, right? There could be a reserve fund, either in the debt service fund or another fund that says we are reserving, and on 2033, June 1st of 2033, we intend to use this extra, $45,000 and pay down on that debt service. So we also will always pay off the final maturity and work our way back up to, the most recent payment you've made. And that's just so that you're not accruing interest out there as long as what that final maturity is.
Thank you for that explanation. So we do have a special meeting scheduled on July 28th, and that step that we'll be taking is.
One simple resolution. It's an authorizing an issuance resolution. Because the bond sale was held today, we do not have time legally between today at 11 a.m. and your meeting tonight to be able to provide all of the detailed documents, bond council documents, 20, 30 pages. You get to sign a lot, Mayor, City Clerk gets to sign a lot. That resolution really, tonight you're locking in the interest rate that fills in all the other blanks that are necessary for, filing with the county, because this is debt that gets filed with the county, informing and getting loan agreements signed by the underwriter, things like that. So it's just simply one resolution, and it will kind of wrap up all of the action items so that on August 12th, you can receive that money into your account. And that is not a meeting date. August 12th is just the date that the money will come into the account.
Council, any questions for me? Moving on to item number 6, considering a resolution approving engineering services agreement proposal.
Oh, well, then you need to approve that.
Yeah.
Tired. Sorry, Mayor.
You did such a good job. I just knew they were gonna automatically approve it. All
I'm
right.
sorry, Maggie, I just wasn't sure if that resolution was what we were actually voting on that for next time.
All right. Who would like to make a motion?
Make a motion to award
Second.
to Bankers Bank Madison.
Okay, I need a roll call to start.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we can move on to number 6 to consider a different resolution approving engineering services agreement proposal for preliminary planning and design services for 80th Street and Highway 151 intersection roundabout project. And we're glad that John Lawson is back with us here.
Yes. I'm John Larson with Hall and Hall Engineers, filling in for Shane Waits tonight. So this item is for our, essentially our contract proposal. Begin the early stages of planning and design and concepting and traffic study work for the roundabout right outside. Chance to review it. Get a feel for our scope that we're proposing. We decided we're going to team up with Snyder and Associates to assist with traffic study. And some concepting. The execution of this agreement. I do believe Shane had it online in here. Get us started on the right way. To wrap it up in next spring. Get feedback on my conceptual designs. And really narrowing our options down before we potentially move forward with the final design.
John, if Rosina pulls that up, could you go through all the steps that are in that agreement? You started with the traffic study. Let's see if she can pull that up. Second. There we go. Yeah, I want you to see.
All right, so halfway there, performing the traffic study, functional design and concept planning services. As I mentioned, team of Snyder and Associates as our sub-consultant. They'll do a majority of the traffic study and work with the DOT as well to gather data for that. Obviously this is a long-term project that's going to be around well after the data center traffic, construction traffic hopefully eventually starts to dial down. So picking out those numbers to determine what, you know, what the traffic looks like without the data center construction, and prorating that out to the design life of the roundabout. It's probably the most critical component of the study. But, you know, Snyder and Associates, I just heard back today, it sounds like they will also be doing the deep study for the DOT. So, there'll be traffic analysis with the data center traffic down anyway. So it should mesh well with this and kind of, you know, pick out those numbers and for the study data for so you know, with that step A, like I mentioned, we're going to work with Snyder to come up with you know, essentially 3 concepts of the roundabout. You know, because there's all sorts of different geometry you can use. That's you know, the type of traffic we're seeing out here, both the transportation and everything else. And that's what we hope to bring back to city council, the public, to get feedback on. Item B, that's essentially just gathering, doing land survey, topographic and boundary survey. Pretty straightforward what we do on every project.
John, excuse me, would that identify if we need to do any right of ways or land?
That'll be
acquisition?
that's basically delineating the existing right of way. And property lines adjacent to the project area. Obviously, we need to establish that first to determine what the impacts outside of that could potentially be. Item C, preliminary planning services. Essentially, that involves, you know, on completion of the survey work, we have to map everything out, existing conditions. That's kind of the starting point when you design. And, you know, it's kind of the more planning, I mean, it'd be seeing stuff, the administrative level work, that Hall and Hall will have a role in Snyder. Just kind of the liaison of the project. So at the bottom there, Shane had a paragraph in there, the deliverables for this portion of the project included sharing project details with the public and collecting their feedback, as well as establish final schematic layout or concept, following feedback from council and the public of the proposed roundabout, so that the city can then move forward with design and construction. 40 cents.
After A, it says, you know, say traffic study, thought we were already doing.
So that's here as far as that TEEP study goes. That's the next item on the agenda through the DOT. Again, that TEEP study kind of more revolves around today's traffic with the data center traffic accounted for. So we still have to go back on, I believe Snyder plans on looking up historical traffic data, working with the MPO, see what they have. We still need to separate that data because eventually when the data center construction traffic is gone, that's really what we want to design around. So there still will be a traffic study element with this. So yeah, that's essentially what that covers.
When the council originally approved a traffic light at that intersection, the projected cost was about a little under $3 million. When they changed their minds and changed it to a roundabout, they showed just the city's portion, excluding the MPO's contribution, will be significantly more than the entire project cost for a traffic light. Somewhere in the mid to high three if memory serves. Is that still roughly what your numbers are showing?
I believe so. If Shane hasn't indicated otherwise since then say that's still on par. But you know, I would have to get some feedback from Shane.
I can do a quick comment and an update for the council. The MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, we had submitted our application for 3.6 million based off of Shane's projections. And we're like the final step away. Tomorrow afternoon, the MPO Policy Board will put the final blessing on all the projects they're approving that has gone through DOT review as far as the funding is concerned. So I feel very confident that tomorrow afternoon at the MPO Policy Board meeting, that 3.6 million funding will be available, and I'll be able to give the council a better time frame. It won't be next year, but it won't be too far out either.
So that's what the MPO will contribute, 3.6 million, and our costs will be over 3.5 million, so about a $7 million roundabout. As opposed to about a $2.8 million light that includes our portion and the MPO's portion.
No,
It
You
was
don't have
about
those
3 million because ours was, and I'd have to,
no, that included ours. So 3.6 included all of ours.
so that's the total cost of the project.
That's what we applied for.
No,
Well, we've got a contribution of 20%, I believe. I don't know, John.
ours,
It's usually 80-20.
and I can just back and show, but our contribution was higher than 20% due to land acquisition and redesign. It wasn't just 20% significant. It was 3.6 from the MPO and approximately 3 from us, so it's more almost
I can't speak to that.
Yeah, I can't either. Shane would know. But we can circle back at the next meeting with more details. You know, like I said, if we move forward with this and we get Snyder involved too, we can work with Snyder and fine tune some of that cost. But as Joanne said, I suppose whatever was filled on the MPO application be what we have today as far as cost.
Yeah, 3.6 is what we applied for, but the city has a 20% match.
So
That's the numbers that were in writing to the MPO. And this particular engineering contract, John, is for 102,000, is that correct?
yes.
Council, any questions for John? Just to move forward, I need a motion to adopt this resolution.
Make a motion to authorize that to move forward.
I need a roll call, please, Cindy.
Aye.
no.
I
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so continuing on in that same line, John, number 7, on specifically the team study.
So has the team study been discussed in prior meetings? Is everybody aware of what the TEAM program is?
Describe the 150
So
hours.
TEAM stands for Traffic Engineering Assistance Program. It's an initiative through Iowa DOT to provide up to 150 hours of traffic engineering services for cities and counties. I did get word back today from Sam Shea at the Iowa DOT that the TEAM funds were formally approved for this corridor through town. 150 hours. Those 150 hours will cover 80th Street intersection, Williams on the south side of town, and Beverly. And I know there's been discussions between you and Shane about us having interest in potentially throwing Church Street and, you have to remind me of the
Highland.
intersection up here. Into that. We need to coordinate further with DOT on that. They can also squeeze that into the 150 hours. It sounds like maybe not. So I believe the DOT would still do it or have their consultant do it, but the city would have to pay for those two additional intersections. I think Shane asked it maybe it was $10,000 an intersection. The city would have to fund. But the other 150 hours would be the DOT's cost. So, and this is the one I was referring to that is looking at today's traffic volumes with the data center construction, traffic incorporated, possible solutions to handle that. Very basis. And like I said, it sounds like Snyder Associates is who they chose to do this, which helps us. Direct. So. Picking up.
Sorry, Brian, I guess I'm just. Don't understand this. So the traffic study in the previous item is for future traffic, looking at what it was.
We're looking at what it was before the data center traffic and then having to prorate that out over the design life of the roundabout because there's all sports growth you got to factor in. So around design around that not with the data center construction traffic, since that's a
Right.
short term.
And then the TEEP study is looking at traffic again,
Like currently,
but what exactly have we been doing? I'm assuming those are those cameras, those apparatus that's sitting out at several intersections are parked, right?
I don't know what's up there.
They may be
What's
going to count.
We approved this traffic study. What did we approve?
No, we
Well,
didn't.
there's traffic counts and there's traffic studies. These could be doing traffic counts, but somebody's still got to take that data and examine it. And, you know, yeah, review it. They got to come up with recommendations on how to handle it, whether we do. I don't know anything about that. Maybe Shane does. Maybe he could circle back with you next month on that.
Or
But
Eric or Brian might know.
Right, I mean, I know you're just
yeah,
representative here, I get
I would
it.
assume if they just put cameras or whatever, but they're just counting cars. But like I said, traffic count is only a small portion of the overall study. So again, the DOT will be forming a study with those numbers that this device is holding, I assume, but I don't know if they also need to look at, I don't know if those are up at Beverly, at Williams, at 80th, if we have a new church. I mean, you got to examine every intersection with a traffic study. So, what those are holding, I don't know. I assume it will assist with the overall study, but yeah, we have to inquire with the DOT about that. So,
I think that's a question, unless anyone knows, like, what exactly were we doing out there? Did we, I'm assuming that cost things, there's some things, right, we gotta pay for those. And
I
why
don't
can't
know.
that be used?
They didn't ask us. They just, yeah.
Oh, okay. Great.
So it sounds like something we need to find out what they're doing with whatever those devices are.
yeah, we can ask that question. Like I said, I assume they're just gathering data, so once they bring Snyder forward to complete the study, they have the data. Sam did mention that when I talked to him, that they were doing some preliminary work already, even without Snyder on board yet, so that could be part of that. It's just part of the team study.
And I will see Sam Shade tomorrow, I assume, at MPO, so I'll ask that question and then I can report back to them.
Yeah.
So you didn't really need any action on this item, did you, John, or motion?
No, this was just
Information.
discussion.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just to clarify real quick, I finally found it after the fact. The city participation cost is 2.4 million. This MPO funding that they're referring to is 3.6, so it's a 60-40 split. It's not just 20% of 3.6 million.
I'll get a clarification on that at the NPO meeting, because my understanding is 80-20.
And that is from the May 12th meeting, if you want to go back and look at it.
Okay. Clarification on that from the NPO tomorrow. Okay, let's move on to item number 8. Consider resolution for the amended council code of conduct policy that incorporates the attorney revisions. Last month, council had approved it subject to attorney review. Deb, you want to talk a little bit about the attorney review?
I sent it to the attorney. Listed several things, so I incorporated all the things that he suggested, and sent it back to him via.
What were his comments on the Supreme Court cases that struck down things like this? So you didn't ask him about legal precedent where things like that were struck down and the cities were held liable?
Suggestions that he wanted to put to the code of conduct. I incorporated what he suggested.
He didn't think it was relevant to ask about court cases that they could review.
That's the Supreme Court that you're. And that used it for municipalities, but it actually had to do with the Department of Education. So it wasn't necessarily just the municipality.
No, it's regarding specifically the infringement of free speech.
Yes, but
Now,
it wasn't
yeah.
just for municipalities, it's for Department of Education, but municipality. Correct on that, but not totally correct.
But we have a copy that has a lot of underlines or all of it, changed a lot of it.
Yes, yes, that's what I said. Everything that is underlined is what he said needs to be there. So put everything in there that you suggested.
Did you ask him what the liability was to the city if it's not equally enforced?
We're referring to item number 6, enforcement and accountability.
My opinion, the way you suggested things, it makes it very. It would come to the council to actually do whatever they decide to do for if they don't do what they're supposed to do. So it's not like mayor decides, I decide. It's the council as a whole that's whatever repercussions are going to happen if you're not following the rules and regulations.
The council has to vote on this.
Yes, there are several different things. I mean, you have an option of it can be this, or this, or it can be none of those things. It can be overturned by 2/3 vote. Yet it's a whole lot more lenient in regards to if something happens and you're going to sanction them, this is what can happen. So it's not like, oh my gosh, if you do this wrong, you're done. That's not the way I.
Well, my understanding of item number 6, enforcement and accountability, is that the mayor issues the warnings. This is all within one council meeting. But if you get to the 3rd violation, then that goes to a council vote as to whether to take any action.
It can get like a warning, the first meeting, 3 consecutive meetings, you get a warning. That's when, according to what the attorney said, it needs to be not every meeting like I had it. That there's a problem, there's a habit. And that's why he said it need to be 3 times in a row, then it goes with a vote of the council.
Of the council.
Again, it's just to show you need to have your conduct be professional at all times, to everyone.
So, council, do you have any further questions for Deb? What do you want to do with this? The original resolution was approved. An amended resolution.
I trust the attorney looking at things. Obviously, there's sensitive topics in here, like so I'm trusting the attorneys looked into what they need to, isn't just going through and changing verbiage, that they're paying attention to what the language actually says. Or
There's a lot of subjective stuff in here, so under like the gray category of definitions. Deb might say she wasn't contemptuous towards Tina when you guys did not renew.
This is an example.
Don't interrupt me, you just violated your own code of conduct for
you-
interrupting, sorry. You're now in trouble, I'm gonna vote to have you punished.
Mike, you started it by violating, so.
He wasn't talking, I talked. And then she interrupted me. See, that's the subjective matter I'm talking about. Are you gonna punish her if this would have passed for interrupting me? Yes or no? It's not a difficult question.
I don't think it's a hard.
Oh, it's only for people when she decides to, okay.
That's what it is. You have to work together. We need to work together for the betterment of the city. And if we're fighting all the time, what good are we gonna do to anybody? We don't.
I would say
you
the
know,
majority of
we
the time
need
we don't fight.
Respect.
I would say there's a few hot topics, but if you go back and look at things we talked about on the whole,
I'm sure there's probably.
I'd say we are pretty in sync with the majority of stuff.
So I just have one comment, that bringing up something that I said in whatever meeting is a personal attack, in my opinion. That is on this list.
Wait, so you're saying I personally attacked you because I believe you were contemptuous towards Tina when you guys tried to motion her to force her to take over the city clerks. And you said you can leave too in a very sarcastic, humiliating and demeaning manner. And it's on YouTube, so it's not like it's something you can just say that never happened. You can easily go back and see. So by your own rules, you've already violated. Now, again, we're not doing it retroactively, I understand that. But this is a subjective matter that I'm talking about.
Oh. What would you like to do, council? We have,
I make a motion that we put this in.
so just a quick comment, the original was approved by the council. Now we're going on an amended version. If you vote yes on this, the amended version will go into effect. If you vote no, the original is still going into effect. It's still in effect. Just a little explanation there. We have a motion on the floor to approve the amended version. Roll call, please, Stan.
Aye.
Which way are you going? Like this?
We're going this way, please.
Nay.
Hi.
Okay. Going with the amended version. Okay. Item number 9. Discussion and possible motion regarding establishing a monthly city council committee of the whole session. We're going to talk about this one. Thanks. Whoever,
Person you put it on
put the topic on the agenda, please.
Yeah, so I think so. We tried a concept, gosh, a month ago. Had a conversation about traffic. It was, the topic specific about traffic, data center. So I think having conversations that are not bound by motions and ordinances and resolutions and voting allows us to open up some conversation, change the of the meeting, have it be a work session, and then keep our meetings like tonight strict to just voting and not necessarily discuss things in full because they would have already been discussed. So this is the proposal to add in a second meeting and as a work session. So everyone read what was written in there, but again, it's, you know, some examples of, we got 2 committees right now. Probably gonna be more, there's still some on the list that we had in history, but you know, where those committees can update the council, what was discussed outside of, you know, minutes and all that, would be, have an actual conversation, because there's takeaways that would be important for the council to set direction on if they want to or not do something. Other special projects, long range planning, presentations, whether they're from or about one of the committee topics or something new. But again, for us as a council to have deeper and better conversation, not inside of a council meeting. It is a public meeting. It's still bound by all of the rules of state of Iowa, just segmenting content between a normal council session and this work session.
And you want that to be the last Tuesday of the month?
Or so, yeah.
Or yes,
So I have a question, Dan. I've always been in support of 2 council meetings per month, but under this concept, what would happen? We currently have scheduled on July 28th, a special council meeting for that bonding action. So that is an action. Does that mean we would have 2 meetings?
well, potentially, we don't always have a council meeting, a special meeting at the end of the month, so you would just make an exception for whatever that circumstance is.
So that wouldn't mean 2 special meetings. A work session plus a special.
That or this one's the Wednesday after, or the week before. Whatever it needs to be.
So there could be some flexibility.
Well, there's always gonna have flexibility, yes. What if we only had 2 council members available?
And what if there's not a good discussion topic? I mean, we don't seem to run out of those, but what if there wasn't?
We sit there, stare at each other for 2 minutes and adjourn and be on our way.
Why do you think the
I think
current,
there's always a topic, yes.
why do you think the current format isn't working? And the reason I asked specifically is because reading this proposal. For the work session where the majority of stuff gets hashed out and discussed, it says public comment will not be included. Don't you think public comment should be included when we're doing the majority of the discussion on topics?
Public comment is for these meetings, like there's no vote in a work session, it's a discussion.
Yes, and
Right.
don't you think the public should have comments when we're discussing things that are then considered to be more formality at the next meeting?
I think we're always taking public feedback.
Still think it's fair to the public that when we're gonna do the majority of the discussion of a topic and treat the first of the month meeting as a formality, then we don't allow them to provide any input. Had them provide lots of input over the years.
I don't think that pertains to formality of anything.
Well, that's what you just said, where the first meeting of the month would be a more of a formality of voting, limiting discussion, whereas the last meeting of the month would be basically a pre-meeting where we hash everything out and then just vote, try and keep the first meeting of the month shorter. And if we're doing the majority of the discussion in a work style session, that term you were using, and not include public comment, I think that's detrimental and it dismisses public comment for public opinion. I'm not
If you have
disagreeing
a-
that a potential second meeting might not be beneficial. To cut down on some time. But I think the public should be allowed. For having a second meeting. I know you're using a different terminology, but it's in essence, a second council meeting. For a month. And the public should have a right to comment on something.
So the meeting on the fourth Tuesday would be discussions prior to the next month's council meeting. Am I correct?
Likely.
Yeah.
Or depends on what the conversation is. And so with Mike's feedback. Is any other thoughts, feedback?
I have one.
Yes.
As city staff, I'd like to be invited to all of these meetings. And I don't know why, if I'm not specifically invited to your second work session, that I would not be allowed to have a comment on a topic or any of the city staff. This is the expertise that's out there that's doing the work day to day, today, and probably has a better idea of how the city is ran than anybody sitting at the front table. I would think you would want to have our input for any of those meetings. But if we're not invited, we wouldn't be allowed to discuss anything.
Any other feedback on this?
I
So
think
there-
it's an excellent idea. Is there an opportunity that you just put comments at the end to make it a little quicker per se? Is that, I mean, it seems like our meetings run so long and everybody gets brain dead by the time the end of the night is. That if we have a second meeting, it's gonna help to shorten the meeting so that everybody else is here. Yeah. If that's what you're hoping to accomplish with that. But to incorporate what Mike's saying, could we have maybe have comments at the end? Kind of like what we do here, the citizens have comment,
Either or. This is
because I just
Proposal
feel
for
like
us.
if we do that, it's gonna end up being a great big long meeting again. I feel like it should be just a work thing. We always talk about all this stuff to make these meetings shorter. So we're not here at 10 o'clock at night and brain dead after we've all worked all day, and I think it's an excellent idea.
Do we have any examples from other communities and how they handle work sessions? Because I know several of them do meet twice a month. That you could share with the council and so we get a better feel for how that might happen.
Well, yeah. Chris. You want to share about Long Road?
Sure. Yeah, there's a couple communities that I work with that do work sessions or additional meetings. They don't have quite as heavy of agendas typically, so they don't always do it. It's not a scheduled thing. But if they do hold it, their ordinance states that any special committee or meeting should typically be held on this date when possible. And that would allow the public to know and expect that that date would be available for them to come to that meeting. Again, councils try to be flexible. You have quorum to think about. You have topics that are important that need action, that are time sensitive. So there's always, I think, a reasonable amount of flexibility that should be considered, but you try to set a specific date. And yeah, and they allow they allow comments, but there's not a section for it. So if someone shows up that has something to say on a topic, those communities have never discouraged that, but there's just not typically been a section that says public comment. Staff has always been invited. If it's open to the public, it's open to everybody. Yeah, so that's, community of Long Grove, McCausland. Some communities are strictly one meeting. I think it depends on how much they have to consider.
So Rosina, when you said they allow public comment, is that similar to what we do here? We discuss the topic and then the public can weigh in on that as we go along rather than wait until the end.
Correct. Yeah, I think, that's a council discretion. Absolutely.
I think they can be structured in the way that we would like them to be structured. They aren't public meetings, they have to be a public meeting. So they would be posted or put whatever the new legislation is in the various places. We just have to decide, like our special council meetings don't have that, right? So it's not on the agenda, is not on special council meetings.
We can change that.
I mean, that's, I'm just saying to Mike's comment is that, yes, we've got a lot of things that are gonna be happening in our community. I think that we need the opportunity to discuss those outside of the pressure of we have to vote for this, or we have to create this, we have to have that dialogue and trying to figure out where we need to go, I think is important. I like the idea of the structure of, typically we would do this, but if there's something that either we can't get counsel there or it's not a heavy duty, dialogue that we need to have flexibility to not have that as well. So I am in support of the work session. We just need to figure out exactly what we want to incorporate. Do we have a time limit? Is it the public can make a comment on whatever is on the agenda, and that's their comment. It's generally not a dialogue question and answer. I'm just, that's what I'm saying. Those are rules that we would need to figure out. How do we want it structured? And
Sounds like we need to have a work session on how to have a work session.
well, I think it is.
Like you said that.
That it's new. I like the idea. I like the idea of being able to have conversations about things that we may or may not want to make formal decisions on. So yes, I agree with the work session. I think we need to detail and outline a format.
So here's a thought. We're having a special meeting on the 28th. Anyway, we do have to take an action at that one, but could we have a discussion on this topic further after you've pondered it a little bit?
Just seems we're making schedules more difficult, so we can have a 3-hour meeting, so our next meeting's over only 1 hour, so that way we don't have a 4-hour meeting. And I know Dan's open to changing it, the public should always be able to comment on something we're discussing, whether it's a work session or an actual meeting. Now, I know what you're asking, special meetings, we don't have a public comment section at the end, that's just for regular sort of meetings, and I would say we keep that in place and treat any sort of work session as a special meeting. That's more in the generic if someone has something they want to get off their chest that isn't on the agenda.
It's generally the concept I was going after.
But yeah, they should be able, anytime we're talking about a topic, the public should be able to comment as long as they're staying on topic. But again, and Deb is correct that some of these meetings can be very long and tiring, but if we're spending 4 hours on one night as opposed to 2 hours on one night and 2 hours the next, what do we accomplish?
Pressure minds.
I think part of it is, at least for me, the meetings that take 4 hours and you're sitting 10 o'clock, whatever the topic is at the end, you're tired, you just want to move on to go home. Whereas if you split it up, think about it, work when you get meetings that last a really long time, everyone's just tired at the end. Splitting them up just refreshes, rejuvenates your brain. Not ending a conversation, just end it.
One of the pieces of feedback that I've heard from council members who have requested this or request those meetings is just that it gives them time to think about the comments that are made prior to action being taken, and gives everyone. So if it's on a meeting where no action is going to be taken, and they have a little time to go home with the information that they gain from the public or from each other and think about it. and then come back to the table maybe later to take that action. That's what they've requested or stated has been beneficial for them.
For me, I guess I don't come at it as the, you know, unless our meetings are long, and they have been historically that way. I see it as a bigger picture of trying to streamline some things. And we're all aware that we've got things surrounding us that we may not want to be here. To have a dialogue, even anyone, I think is beneficial outside of being forced to make a motion on something that we talk about. I agree that public down comments on whatever our topics are, I think that could be included. I don't see why it couldn't. They are public meetings. They have to be public meetings. But I think it's up to us to, since this is new, to get it right first.
So do we want to move on this topic tonight or have Dan come back with any updates, or what do you want to do, council?
Give
That
us
motion?
time to think about it, you mean?
This table for the 20.
Move it for reconsideration.
Yeah. Next meeting.
Table it for next meeting.
So Rosina, is that considered a table or no action?
Table, usually.
Table, okay. Do they need to vote on that?
Not sure on your procedures on that. I think that's a council decision.
Do you want to vote or just,
Motion to table.
there you go, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, there you go, so. All right. Item number 10, discussion on possible motion considering an ordinance establishing a moratorium on AI data centers. Creator of that ordinance, please provide some information.
So this ordinance is talking about AI data centers and trying to read word for word what the agenda item says, but yes, creating a moratorium until several items are rectified. And I'm not going to read them all, but like electrical demand, issues with water, infrastructure, job displacement. The long document. Additionally, then there's findings of fact, which is give a little more detail beneath each of the bullets. This is structured a little differently than other moratoriums that you've seen. That isn't exactly a timetable per se, but more or less items or conditions that need to be solved before any potential business comes to Fairfax.
So a couple of questions, Dan. First one, you're talking about high impact data centers and you include the definition. Will you talk about that definition? What do you mean by high impact?
Yeah, so
Section 3.
yeah, so it's really looking at data centers, that are requiring a lot of electricity. Clearly, we have that conversation happening just to our north a little bit, as well as cooling. I know there's but different types of cooling that exist, but generally the usage of water, however it's, whether it's open or closed loop, doesn't really matter, but it's the requirement of water as a usage. And then further forward with that, but yeah, it's basically trying to separate a industrial type business that really they currently have with what this moratorium addresses.
So under your electrical demand, you say 10 megawatts or greater. Where did that come from?
Where do you come from?
The 10 megawatts. What?
I checked a couple other different sources. That's where that came from. It's clearly above some small usage, but your data centers will actually hold more than that.
So our planning and zoning commission is currently working on a data center ordinance. What impact would that have? Would this moratorium have, or how do they partner up on this, or explain how you visualize that?
Well, if there's further definitions, they can be amended or added on as additional pieces, but it all depends on what exactly is being worked on.
You would want them to continue working on the ordinance? Or that separate discussion?
It's potentially a second discussion, depends on what exactly they are working on. Here. And where you technically can't say, well, you know, like the Lynn County had their 18-month one, you can't say, well, just never, right? But that's just saying this type of business we're putting moratorium on, so we do more research, etc. This one's saying that, well, when these items are proven out, whether it's studies and impact, once those are proven out, then it's okay. That might be tomorrow, it might be 10 years from now. It's not in our court, it's in whatever prospective company wants it up.
Visualize that a future council would have to vote on that to lift the moratorium?
That or the items are satisfied. Sure, yeah.
I mean, who determines that the items are satisfied? The council?
Moratorium. Various fullness. So yes, I mean there's clearly things in there. I mean if a business approaches Fairfax, we have city staff reviews that says, okay, is this actually fitting in? Does actually fit within the definition? Do they satisfy all this? Yes, no. If it's yes, then it comes to the council. If no, then there's items to fix and address. Either way, it's before anything happens, the council has to make a vote. Planning and zoning would have to get involved too, because we don't have the industrial zoning anyway.
I comment.
Yes, sir.
So to answer the question on P and Z, yes, we're working on an ordinance. We've basically copied the Lynn County data center ordinance with changing quite a bit of the verbiage, be more beneficial and more strict for Fairfax. We're in the works of rewording that correctly, with concerns of water runoff, with concerns of power usage, with concerns of storm wastewater collections, all the way down through and including performance. Now, that's a key one that a lot of people haven't looked at. Performance that would have to be maintained year after year. If they don't keep up the performance, and that means by efficiencies, by sound decibels, by water runoff control, they can be held accountable and inspected by a third party. These are things that we're writing in there. Some of the data center stuff that's wrote down in the Lynn County says large data center, small data center. We want to see all data centers. We're changing some verbiage. It's going to be way more stringent. We're also going to not look at the needs of a data center. We want to know the needs of the whole complex. That's how some of these loopholes get opened up, because if one needs, I'm just going to throw this out there, 10 megawatts, and that's what they propose to the council. Council thinks, oh, they're only using 10 megawatts, but they got 5 buildings. Well, that's a lot more than what we're talking about. So that changes our infrastructure quite a bit. So we're taking it pretty darn serious, and we're going through it line item by line item. It's not going to be a fast thing, but we're hoping to do a really good first draft and get it up to council for approval. So we're using the Lynn County as a basis, but we're building on it to tailor it to fit the city of Fairfax most beneficial. We've even included emergency plans, fire, what that looks like. We've got so many bases that are just not currently in Lynn County that will be in ours. Very stringent.
Can I ask a question? Does any of this have to be,
An ordinance?
you know, don't know what the process is, so I don't, somebody say, oh, they're going.
Attorney doesn't approve it, but yes, I would make the motion that the attorney reviews this. Just like anything, because they have to.
I would wait for planning and zoning to bring their ordinance or their proposed ordinance rules to us before acting on this. I don't see this council in any capacity in the center currently, so I don't think we need to rush on Dan's proposed 5 1 week. See what planning and zoning brought us.
Well, the city receives an application tomorrow.
Again, we are not compelled in any capacity to say okay. And I don't see anybody at this table saying okay.
And officially on the record, we're working on the zoning, so it wouldn't be an illegal move at that point. If they present a project to us and we have not discussed or tried to entertain the idea on record that we're trying to make an ordinance, that's where you can get into a sticky situation. If you do it post presentation, that's where we're opened up for lawsuits. It is in the works. It'll be recommended and pushed up to council for approval. That's where we're at on P and Z. That's all I really want to say.
So it sounds like, Eric, a lot of the stuff that you guys are talking about, exactly the stuff is.
There's a lot more. I mean, a lot more. I don't want a lot of the stuff out yet until the verbiage is more presentable, so it's not misconstrued in any way, shape, or form. So, I mean, I've read through that. There are some of the same likeness, but the performance stuff is key. Keeping that efficiency up there and making sure decibels don't change down the road when equipment starts to wear out, lose efficiency. So that's something people don't think about. And decibel readings can be taken 3-dimensionally, and a lot of people don't address that. They can be taken from above, from the side, and from the back. Decibels can go up just as much as they can go prevailing winds, if you will. So there's a lot of aspects to it. And we're trying to do it just to protect the ecosystem in Fairfax. We did talk about the closed loop versus open loop. You know, that's a double-edged sword. And for those that don't know, a data center can use a million gallons a day, and they can pump and dump. That means they use the water and then they dump it. That water's not clean. It's going to be having some materials in it. They're going to have to be processed. That's all apparent. There's closed loop that will have rust inhibitors in it, and that's to protect their equipment so that they can use that water over and over. They still have to top off and fill off. So there's a lot of dynamics, and this is an industry that is changing and probably going to adapt. Every time you make an ordinance, they're going to come out with something a little bit better, a little bit more efficient. You're not going to see these buildings actually expand because the equipment that they use internally are going to get smaller and smaller and more efficient. And effectively, they're growing their business at the same footprint. So by the time you write something in, it's going to be changing. So we're trying to think foresight as much as we can. We've done a lot of research on this. We've even double checked stuff with AI just for fun to see what it would say for suggestions to do for AI. So we're playing around with some stuff, but we're getting it down to where it's going to be in a final draft form here pretty soon. So we're hoping to real shortly get that to you.
So how in the meantime, like you were saying, how do we protect ourselves from a developer coming? Is it because we're working on it when we say, yeah, you need to back the truck up because we're not gonna entertain anything? That's what you're saying.
We can legally say we are not going to entertain a data center right now as we're working through an ordinance.
Well, that's what the moratorium would do.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Well, I think you can also pass this, take amendments from planning and zone. Add, it does give a little more time too, whether that's the next meeting or the meeting after. They agree with some of your additions. You were mentioning about building it small. This does have anything phasing in it. So I think if we add more definition to some of the decibels and all that, I think it's good, but I would make amendments.
I just wanted you guys to know that we are working on it. So I'm not trying to trump you on any card.
that you guys are working on it. I appreciate the work, and I also appreciate the fact that you're taking it seriously enough to make it tougher. We do need to protect our community.
Council, what would you like to do tonight?
I'll make a motion to approve with pending amendments by planning and zoning. And following that, attorney review.
I'll second that.
Motion and a section, any further discussion? This is just a motion, well, it's just a motion, so all in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Any nays?
Hey.
Okay. Moving on to item number 11, discussion and possible motion on proposed ordinance amendment, application and jurisdiction. Reserving to the city of Fairfax all rights pursuant to section 350.9, etc., within 2 miles of corporate limits. Councilmember Anderson, did you submit this?
Yeah, I was looking at our ordinance 166, and I just was wondering about adding that 166.14 would be like the last number in the ordinance. Just cleaning up the language, making it very clear that we reserve all rights. The Iowa code gives us extraterritorial rights, but cities have to adopt clear language to do that. And just wanting information on, I guess this might be a gross question of, does a resolution to amend an ordinance happened, or, and I don't know, what are your thoughts on? Just making sure definitely we have that reservation of rights. It's, we have some, but we don't have a clear definition of reservation of rights.
Similar to the item 10, if we wanted to establish an ordinance, we will have to have a resolution setting a public hearing date for the ordinance to be available to the public and considered. And then we have a reading, and then the council has the right to do a waive of the second and third, or you would have second and third reading after that. So it's, there's a process.
Cindy, could you talk a little bit more about what extraterritorial rights means to the city?
Well, the state of Iowa has given each city basically a 2-mile radius for anything that is going to be subdivided or differently platted, things like that. That it gives them a seat at the table when that happens. There are some exceptions and what do you want to call it? Like if you're 2 miles overlap, then you do an equidistance between there. But it's a rule that we have. You have some language in there that allows us to be communicated with. Things should be allowed within our 2-mile radius to happen without communication to us, with us, from us.
What do you mean by 2 miles overlap?
There may be situations where like you have a town here and you have a town here, and we're less than 2 miles apart, so our 2-mile radiuses intersect. And the language indicates that when you have a full 2 miles, you have to keep a distance between them. Make that into a resolution to add the language. There, you do that right.
You mentioned needing a public hearing for item number 11 or
For both 10 and 11, and I guess that's what I understood. I thought I understood with the way it was passed for number 10, is that you're moving forward with establishing that ordinance. In order to establish that, you have to have a resolution setting a public hearing that in which you're considering your ordinance or amendment. Establishing a ordinance is the same process as amending an ordinance.
so on item number 10? We're gonna have to do another step with the public hearing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I thought that's what you were deciding. The way, I apologize if I read it wrong, but you'd have to have a resolution that sets a public hearing date.
Steve, what do you think's happening right now? Like, are you talking about specifically rezoning or annexation or everything?
Just in general with all, as I watch things happening around us, and like, okay, what are people, how is that going to affect us? Liz County didn't want to include us in their 0.25-mile radius to this. They wanted to go to like dancing, or they didn't want to do our city limits. So I think in any direction, we could have a whole heck of a lot of stuff happen. I'm not comfortable not having to see that table.
The state code does provide for that already.
The state code does, but the cities have to codify it, or it doesn't mean anything to. And we have some language. Section 166 has some language. That's not explained to me.
They ask for you write that up and cut back? Was it for public meeting? Or second?
Yes, to Dan's point, what are you looking to clean up? What do you want to say?
Exactly right. Sorry. I said, we reserve all our rights. With him.
That
I want to add that. I don't know that adding it at the beginning, that they need to change the numbers. Let's try to make it as simple as possible, getting the language in our group. Correct.
You want to amend the current ordinance,
Add
that language.
this.
So Rose, we would need to adopt a resolution to do that and have a public hearing. And actually, number 10 should have had that also in the motion.
What?
That's created an ordinance. Isn't it?
Well, same rules if you're creating an ordinance. We're looking at procedure here to make sure we're doing it properly.
Is that the same thing as, changing our water sewer rates where we have our ordinance, we have our three readings? We don't know, we don't have, they're not public hearings, they're just at a public meeting. I don't know.
Yeah, you have to have a
Yeah,
public
open
hearing.
it up with the public.
But then you would require the two-week notice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anytime you adjust an ordinance, it's public hearing is required.
Okay,
So the suggestion would be I would.
make sure there's no understanding back on item number 10. We did not pass the moratorium.
No, I thought you were motioning to proceed to move forward with it. Apologize. It would have to have been a resolution first. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. I should have sought clarity.
What do we need to do on both of those at this point, Rose?
Well, you've already motioned to proceed in for what I thought was motion to proceed with establishing the ordinance. Taking that into a resolution to move forward, but if I'm wrong, then we can go back to that. Otherwise, you would need a motion, you just need a motion and a second to move forward and at the next meeting, I will present a resolution that you would take action on that would set a public hearing date.
Okay. Can you clarify that for both items number 10, 11, and potentially look at July 28th meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, on,
Right,
correct,
except they didn't vote on number 11.
not yet.
Didn't have a motion yet.
Domain.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. To be continued. All right, moving on to item number 12, discussion of possible motion to reconsider the credit monitoring discussion. Rosina has some additional information before proceeding.
Yes, I know I was authorized at the last meeting to proceed. I apologize. We had some new information I was presented with that the prices came in lower first and foremost. So I think that's because we took off the heavier parts of that credit monitoring and reduce it to just the identity restoration and the credit monitoring. And with that reduction, they came back as a 1-year plan with those costs I presented, or they also provided a 2-year plan. The request on the table from some of the staff is that with the reduction and with some of the things that some instances that have occurred, they would like to see a 2-year plan considered by the council. So I'm here to present that on on that request and the updated information on the reduction in cost. I don't have dates. I don't have specifics.
Tend to get those type of emails on a somewhat regular basis. And it can be from any of us. I've had it come from me, I've had it come from other mayors, I've had it come from other staff.
Both the current employee and former employee have been subject to fraud or attempted fraud. Was it the last few? Yeah, we thought that current employee's request for 2 years, I think that's appropriate.
A motion,
That's first, it's a motion to reconsider the credit monitoring discussion.
need a second?
It's a motion on 2 years.
We're doing number 12 first, so we can do number 13. That was the motion to reconsider.
Okay, all in favor to reconsider?
Aye.
Aye.
And then next would be a motion to offer 2 years of credit monitoring services after input from clerk and staff due to the now reduced cost of those monitoring.
Okay,
Second.
any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Ace? That I didn't hear you either one.
I said,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay. Thank you. Number 14, discussion and possible motion regarding a fire department grass fire truck purchase.
And the new need.
So what, we have been discussing at the fire department is we want to purchase another grass wildland fire pickup. The money that we would use, we had a farmer a few years ago pass away. And he left us $100,000 to use for what we thought necessary. And I thought that the reason that he did it is because he's one of the gentlemen that we would do burn set aside acres for him that the DNR makes you have to burn every year when you get in their program. I thought a good thing would be to buy that truck kind of with most of the money that he left us to use. Necessary. And we have been collecting a lot of money doing that. And what we are asking the council is if this is something that we continue to look at to build and purchase a new truck. The number that we came up with was not to exceed $150,000. I don't think that we would be close to that. All the money that would be used to buy the truck would be money that was donated to the fire department that's in our savings account. So there wouldn't be any official tax dollars used to build and purchase the truck. It would all be money that's been donated to the fire department over the last 30 years. But we aren't going to go. I told them we wouldn't go any farther with it until the council gave us their blessing that yes, this is something that you can do. One of the ways that we were talked about going about it was to go through, is it Sourcewell, right? So Sourcewell, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's the state bidding. So I think you guys built your last dump truck though. So basically what it is it's kind of a shortcut that you don't have to come to the council every month to say, okay, we have a bid on this, we have a bid on that. Just, we would get the bids and get the information. And I think it just all comes from source well, and
Once you spec it out, whatever they give you is the cheapest price that you can get.
so you don't have to go out and get continuous bids from 10 different people or 3 people. Anyway, that's why I'm here tonight, to see if that is something that you would think that was okay if we went ahead and did this.
And council just give him guidance, Rosanna here, we don't really need a motion to.
Do you,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Council.
I mean, basically, I just wanted the okay. I didn't want to waste my time if the council was gonna say, no, I don't think it's good.
They don't have any official bids or anything to move on, so just kind of guidance from the council.
And then I will, when we get that far, then I will get all the stuff through that source well deal and present it to you with what it would actually be. Good.
Okay.
And I will be out of service Thursday, so if you need me and I don't answer my phone, Rosina, I told her I'll be getting knee replacement on Thursday, so I'll be out of service. Thank you.
Good luck, right up. Congratulations, you're getting.
Number 15, discussion of possible motion to approve purchase of a Bobcat tool cat and purchase paving saw. Brian's gonna tell us all about that.
Well, guess I put an explanation there. I don't know if you guys have any questions. I don't want to rehash anything. It's wasting time, but. Tool cat's a multi-purpose vehicle, UTV slash skid loader type thing that we can very definitely use and paving something. Which we've been doing a lot of. If you have any questions more than what I explained?
I would like to just add that it is in this year's budget already. So it's nothing that would have to be amended.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it was put in the budget. So just looking to try to.
So the toolkit is approximately 60,000.
It's right, it's just a hair over 70,000 and some change, 700 and something maybe. I think is where it came in at.
That's not what I'm looking at.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't go scroll down far enough. You're adding some things onto
There was, I think, an extra set of wheels for the seasons.
batteries and camera and
I think, yeah, there was a kit, upgrade kit or something that we had to have for certain things. That's it was just listed that way. I think there was 70,000 allotted in the budget. It's like $700 over. We'd be able to cover that out of the rest of the budget to get that.
street saw.
The concrete saw is for being able to cut all the way through the pavement, which we are unable to do right now. We don't have a saw big enough to do it. I'm looking into doing some of the moving joints on the streets that are offset, that we can maybe try the poly raise something to get them back together. I've had it at my house. It seems to be working, but it's not car traffic. We tried it on one piece of street and I think it's working, but they were not able to get it all the way because we didn't have a saw. We hired somebody to cut all the way through. And then at a different time, they come to raise the street and it wedged as it goes up. So I think we need to saw it twice to get it to come up to alignment like it's supposed to. So with us having a saw, we can be there with them to saw it and resaw and get it where it needs to be. We're gonna give it a try. If it works, it's way cheaper than replacing, way faster. If not, back to the old way, but either way, if we do the replacement, we still need to saw it, so.
That's in your budget as well.
That's in the budget as well.
accidentally get rid of that curb before.
To be honest with you, I really want to. As long as I get the okay, we can do that.
Is it ours?
Yes. Yes, it is.
That's
Yeah.
one said that it wasn't ours.
I didn't think it was because it continues on all.
I thought the property line went straight off of the paving on the, or what is it, east side of the paving all the way out. That's why we plow it, but I don't know. Replace them. I'd like to see it going. Something nicer.
Yes.
We'll incorporate it with something else I was thinking about doing here too, so.
Council, do you want to make a motion to approve one or both of these?
Motion for both.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
All right, stay up there, Brian.
Yes.
Number 16 is Heartland Heights pond flooding.
So the pictures, I don't know, I can't remember if I had a brief description of what was going on. The teens of June, we had a rain event, the biggest rain event that we've had for this year. As far as how fast it came down. So the water came up as high as the highest it had been so far this year, even though we've had a lot of rain. I was not working at the time. I got a couple images from Brandon after the fact. And then when I come back from my vacation, I went up there to take a look at the images I sent you guys. And it made it flooded over, washed out, pushed all the dirt out into the pond. It was a possibility after they did what they did. They did what they did, but
It was a combination of dirt, but also looks like the grass, right?
grass drowned. Well, it basically spilled over the top, eroded it, pushed all the dirt out into the pond area. That one that has the tile picture in it, that one's 6-7 feet deep. So it washed a pretty good hole in it. So a lot of the stuff is corn stalks that you're seeing on top and around there. So that floated from the field down, and then after it had slowly started going down, it just deposited on the edge of the pond all the way around pretty much. Yeah, that's its two big areas. That's the small creek downstream. Didn't look like it had much damage because it did damage it upstream a little bit. There's few main spots where it washed it out. Everything that's out there on the edge of the water, that's actually dirt with grass like corn stalks on it. So essentially, we'd have to dig all that back out and probably not use it because it's a sandy type soil, so it probably wouldn't stay again. And my recommendation, I'm not an expert, would be to shortcut that channel right into the pond right there, line it with a bunch of riprap so it can't wash anymore, and direct it right into the pond. But I know that was that's something with the Army Corps engineers.
Okay, then the DNR have to weigh in on that.
There was, yeah, so I don't know what's involved. John's gonna know way more than I am, but I mean, that's the smartest way, but that's not how they designed it. I'm not sure what the reasons why they didn't, but now after nature took its course, I don't know if that's a factor that we can get by with doing it, so.
Right, how much of that trail to the southwest was covered?
I don't know if the trail was covered. I think it got up a long ways, but I don't know if the trail actually got covered. No, I don't think it quite got that high. For as high as I saw the corn stalks, though, it should have been going over the weir structure underneath the bridge pretty heavily, 4 or 5 feet deep. I believe the pond did what it was supposed to do, but that's the original engineering did not.
To Joe's point, if we had the trail continue all the way to the north. Got that higher.
I think where the pond or where the trail is located, it did not make it that high. And when it would come to the bridge where when they continue Beverly across there and incorporate the bridge or whatever they're going to design for that, I'm assuming that's gonna be up even higher yet. So for this particular instance, none of the trail was affected. Now, if we get 4.5 inches in an hour like we did in 2014, might be a different story. Cause that, pretty much flooded everything here for a short time. And this was a short event too. It come up and then it went back down, but the damage was done. And after looking at it, there was a lot of sandy soil in the area. So once it starts eroding, it doesn't take very long for it to wash the rest of it out. So, and I assume that that's the case all the way around at a certain level, just above the water. I know they capped it with some dirt. But right there in that most violent area, what we're gonna call it, the northeast corner of the pond, there's a retention area there that took it, spilled it over the top like it was supposed to. But I'm not so sure that didn't help direct the water into the pond as it's coming down over, pushing the creek. And the whole thing just swirled in there and washed it all out. Cause I wasn't there to see it, but
So there's some areas. I guess behind the houses on Bartman, also between Rich. Where water was flowing up behind homes. You think that's all interrelated or just the guy who went rain?
too much rain too fast. So those coming down, they go down towards Heartland behind the houses and the waterway. And then there's an intake that takes it into the storm sewer. And I think it's just limited amount of area for it to go into. That's what they were designed to do, is kind of hold a little bit back. Once it gets to a certain height, it spills over onto the street and then goes down to a different intake back into the system, which goes into the pond that's right down by the bridge. So they're designed to take, I think 100 years worth, whatever the 100-year number is, should take it fine. Anything other than that crazy, they had dips in the sidewalks and stuff set up so that if it spills up, it goes over the street before we go into the basements. So as far as water level height for that short amount of time, now if it sits there and doesn't run away, then that's where you're going to start seeing some pumps running more often and stuff like that. There's not that going on. Water's going as fast as it can. Just a little bit too much too fast. I necessarily need an answer today. I just wanted to bring it up so we can see what needs to be done, if we need to get Shane involved or what we should do. I mean, I would think it's something we can do in-house, but it depends on how specific any requirements are gonna be for it.
My thought is. What you say, yes, as long as. ENR is okay with.
If we find out what we can do and what we can't do according to, yeah, we'll have to check that because we don't want to get in trouble with anything that we pick and choose, but maybe this is something that have to be fixed to back the way it was, or we can do something different because now that Mother Nature's making it know what she wants to do. So we'll, I'm sure, look into that. But if nothing else, it's informative. So.
Direction of this one. I don't know what we're looking at otherwise.
I would say just direction on,
Come back with more details.
basically talk to Shane and make sure it's okay with the DNR, just basically tell them you already know this, that they did what it's supposed to do, it slowed down the flow of water, but this is what happened, so these are the recommendations. Are you fine with that?
Yeah, this is what we'd like to do, but see if they got, sure.
I would make sure too, Brian, that keep in mind that is a big recreation area over there in that area. So, whatever we do, we want to make sure it's safe for the kids to be down there because they are going to be down.
Right, absolutely. And that was another bonus. I thought is if they were able to let us redirect it in the right way, everything that used to be creek, there's no reason for it anymore to fill it in. be better maintained than going forward. You can mow it down or whatever. So just my thoughts, or at least that's what I'm thinking, so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, item number 17, discussion and possible motion regarding city clerk's request to hire a part-time office administrative assistant. Rosina?
Yes, does the council have any questions on my request? Need for any clarity?
Provide a brief explanation of
Sure.
the request
Yeah,
and whether it's permanent or temporary.
I'll leave the permanent or temporary up to the council. I see, the potential to hire a temporary position with, possibility of extending it longer, depending on, the outcome of it. I'm requesting part-time finance and administrative assistance for up to 20 hours per week, but that also can be adjusted. If it's, at the council's wish. The reason I'm requesting this is, I'd like to get a little bit of segregation of duties, especially while I am trying to learn some of the processes. I think it's, really important right now for me to be extra careful and cautious and, review things very thoroughly. And that can be very difficult when I'm, entering in things into the system. This is, segregation of duties is something that a lot of cities they struggle with. I see this as an opportunity to potentially address that. I also believe that, I would like to potentially train somebody to be another backup to some of the more time sensitive issues or operations that we have. And then I also believe that we are going to have the opportunity for some process changes that are going to occur with the software transition. And those changes are going to come mostly as a result of the new functions and the new system itself. But I strongly feel that the city can take advantage of this transition with the software to implement additional controls that this new software might offer. It could streamline some practices, and it might just be a way, if we take our time and we're careful, it would be an opportunity to evaluate, along with Tina and Stacy and what's already being done, to evaluate the structure and see how we can make any types of improvements or changes that will help protect city funds and or be good stewards of our time and resources.
Rosina, want to give council an update on the Edmunds software transition? What kind of timeline are we talking about?
They've discussed beginning implementation in August. They're going to roll that out in phases. So we have different modules. We have accounts payable module. We have a general ledger module. We have a bank rec module. I don't know if I said payroll already, and a receipt management module, utility billing as well. So each module operates independently, but has to function as a whole. And I've been through 4 software transitions with cities, very different cities, and with Long Grove. And I think it's really important that we take our time and make sure that we can get ahead of that change. So that we can utilize it to its best functions. In addition to just the software itself as our primary financial software, there are changes we're going to have to make to payroll. We're going to have a new time tracking software. And I don't know, I haven't been involved heavily with the payroll of Edmunds yet, but I don't know how those, an external, because right now we have a G-Work software that matches it and pulls in directly to it. It works with the time tracking. And so I don't know how a lot of these external processes are going to work in relation to the software. So I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns, and we've got a budget coming up. We have a budget amendment. I have some new reports that I'm trying to learn, some processes that I'm trying to learn as well. In addition, we're going to have the software transition. I just want to make sure that I'm able to stay afloat, stay ahead of it, and do the best job with the transition as possible.
One of my prior lives, I went through multiple software quality assurance types of tasks, and that involved dual entry into the current system and the new system. Do you visualize that occurring here?
Yes, that will have to occur.
You know, there's a lot of companies that use different softwares in my prior lives as well. You never ever use it to its fullest capacity. And I think that they design those things to be used to their full. It is a good transition thing. I appreciate that.
My goal is also to try to get the research in beforehand to, there's a couple other communities that have done this transition already. I want to reach out to them. I want to reach out. I have reached out to the state auditor's office to see if they've done any audits for those communities and see what kind of reports that they are going to want to come out of that system, because the reports are going to be different. And there's just going to be little nuances that I would like to make sure that the city stays compliant.
In your mind, what would be the temporary time frame?
I would say a minimum of 3 months would be preferred.
Starting when?
I'm not sure. I haven't gone through a hiring process with this council, so I think it would be dependent on your hiring process. But as soon as possible, so that we can, once I know that this is approved, I could sit down with Tina and Stacy a little bit more. We could talk about just a little more in depth about what this position would look like, where they're going to be, and what they're going to be doing. I think I would like to point out that this is more about what I need, and it's not. It doesn't make commentary on what Tina and Stacy are doing.
Three months.
I would request 3 months. Otherwise, I don't know if it would be beneficial if it was shorter than that.
Any questions for Rosina? Ready to make a motion?
I just have a question, or not question, a comment on the last, I think it was the last thing. When I was reading through that, given the fact that we had the work session stuff, I'm like, this is work session stuff. There's a lot of things that I was seeing, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know what this stuff needs, and I would like information. And so that's where my head went on the questions and the way that it was outlined.
Yeah, I'm always willing to sit down and talk about finance processes or just city processes in general. Just if you have any specifics in advance, I could try to get clarity. Otherwise, I'm not the end all resource on any of this, which is why I always look to, there's plenty of CPAs in the auditor's office or the League of Cities for advice as well.
Rosina, is it your preference to make this a permanent position or temporary, or we'll see? I know you said you deferred to us to kind of ultimately decide, but I also want to know your preference on it.
I see pros and cons. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I see pros and cons to everything. I'm still very new, so I think it might be premature to make that decision. The I think we're going to learn more once the software is in. Maybe it will add more controls in place that won't more checks and balances and more separation of duties. Stacy and Tina, I think, need to be a part of that discussion. And the part that I would see it being a pro in is there are a lot of tasks and duties that the clerk and treasurer position currently performs that are administrator, what I would consider to be administrator. So that would be the part that ongoing support would be very helpful regardless. But I don't want to come to the council and say I cannot do those things. I believe that I can. I believe we can under the current structure, but it's just difficult at times.
So it's mostly a combination of bandwidth of availability in terms of hours per week and the heavy influx of like the learning curve of everything.
I think the learning curve is pretty steep. 1 month of training.
And everyone, they and Tina they will have the same learning curve because your office is transitioning to this new system. Will that curve likely extend to like the department heads and other city staff as well? Or is that,
I see this as a great opportunity. They have other modules. Edmonds has a plan and zone, like a building permits module. They have a community rental application or process. And to me, with technology, anytime that you can streamline or utilize the same system as a whole, you tend to cut out room for error, but it still needs to make sense. So I would love to present some of those options to see if the parks would like to do the community rentals through the module or if they want to keep doing what they're doing. It's a great time to evaluate our credit card processing, the fees. It's a good time to just look at the picture as a whole with regard to what the system can do. It is a new system. There's a few communities that have transitioned, but there's not a lot of communities in the state of Iowa. They have, self-admitted that they're adapting to Iowa right now in the standards. They are creating reports that our auditors from the state want to see. So there's a lot of room there on their end too for feedback and improvement.
Okay, council, any further questions? Or someone ready to make a motion? Okay.
Cindy, you said you wanted more info, or are you satisfied?
no, I don't think I need more info. I just, I just wanted to point out that the other document that has a lot of the, how we can streamline those kinds of things, if that's a council thing, I think that would be a perfect example of what a work session could do, is to get that information. I'm not asking for that information right now. I appreciate the fact that we are going to a new system and everybody's going to have to learn, and potentially, a temporary, part-time, extra set of hands and eyes.
Is that a motion?
Anyone having comments? After I make my comments? Then I would motion for a approval for a temporary part-time finance administrative assistant with setting out the posting of the position. Establishing a hiring committee.
Are you gonna make it temporary with the possibility of permanent, or how do you want that?
I think start temporary with review.
90 days.
Yeah.
You need guidance, Rosina, on an hourly rate?
I do.
Any recommendation?
We had it in there.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
Thank you. All right, continuing on, item number 18. This, discussion possible motion about, a mentoring agreement. You previously discussed that, waiting for additional information, which you now have. So any questions for Rosina on that?
Are we discussing 18 now?
Number 18, yes.
So what is the normal rate? When you went to other cities and helped with your expertise, what did you normally charge?
I charge the city, I believe of Law Grove is 29. McCausland is, I get paid, and this is, I'm still employed by Long Grove as needed. So this is through employment, but not mentorship. And with McCausland as their treasurer, I am, I believe at 28. And then I provide, mentorship to the city of, or the district of Parkview. And I think I'm at 26 there, and the differences vary because of either I'm remote or what they're asking for specifically. That's what I charge. I don't know what the standard is in field. It's probably going to vary depending on credentials and qualifications. A CPA would average between 100 and 150 an hour. Typically, a firm might charge more depending again on remote or, who's doing it, but a CPA firm.
Do you have a vision as to frequency of the need or any specific areas of need, or?
I don't at this time. I think that if this were to happen, it would just be on an as needed when things came up basis. I was hoping that I'd be able to do an email or a call, and if something came up, but I don't know if she's completely closed off to it, but she prefers to do in-person training, which is why she said she wanted to add the federal mileage rate.
This isn't approved, you'll still be able to do your job though, so it's not imperative that we go by this, correct?
I'm going to figure out how to move forward. Correct.
This is not approved, is what I'm saying.
I believe so. This would just be, this is going to provide a quicker and more city of Fairfax specific type of training. That would be, you're going to get the history and the knowledge that is related specifically to Fairfax.
$17 over. As far as extra work needed.
Rosina is more concerned about the institutional knowledge that you can't get from the League of Cities or other entities. The CPA can come in, but if they don't have specific knowledge of audits, budgeting, things like that to that city, you can't just go down to Walford and say, hey, come run this just because they've been doing things at the city of Walford. She's specifically wants to have that knowledge that she can access due to Cynthia's previous 16 years of basically doing all of that. Having that kind of intimate knowledge of those processes. And if you remember back to previous months in January and February, and what she just mentioned, the typical consulting rate of $80 is actually significantly lower than what most consulting firms charge. And you can get someone for cheaper for that, possibly from the League of Cities, but they're going to have no idea what's going on in the city. They're only going to be able to provide the most generic knowledge and have a knowledge level less of what Rosina has now.
As far as what 18 is covering, you said like potentially need. You don't know. The
Is this the actual bill?
That is it. Yeah, that's the previous for that period of time and um this was dated January 15th. She mentioned this as a reference to use.
Think of this next year when she goes to do auditing. That's a truckload of information to process and accurately pull and put it in a form. That would be a example of her probably wanting Cynthia's help. She's not asking about, doing payroll processing or thing like that. It's more of
I understand that. I'm confused of, because that's the right word, but you're not asking for 5 hours. Like, let's say next month, it could be 0. It could be,
as needed.
Where would that be put?
City clerk salary, right?
Contracting, this would be in, I would think we would want to split it up between the funds and do, it would be under a consultant fee or outside services. But it wouldn't be the salary, but
So it would be like general fund or
yeah, I would say it would be split up where currently my salary and her salary previously was if we were to.
but as
Among the
consultant
funds.
rather than employee.
Correct.
We have a budget for that now?
The line item might not be allocated, but due to the existing gap in the city admin, there's room. That's where, the funds for your administrative assistant would come from. Is that gap.
And would be required for either of these 2 items, 17 and 18.
Not unless we went over the allocated function, which I do not believe that we would. But we're doing one anyway, so we could easily incorporate it.
Council, any other questions? I don't hear any, so anyone want to make a motion?
Motion. As written.
A second. I'm still punching numbers over there. Like celebrity Jeopardy or the clock running. I'm waiting for a second.
Cut off her nose to spite her face.
And are you still pondering or? No? Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. No second, motion dies for the lack of a second. Move on to item number 19, discussion opportunity for citizens not on the agenda. Anyone like to speak in the audience?
First. Paul Malley, live on north side of Fairfax. What are the rules for this?
7.
Yeah, but council is.
They don't respond.
They don't respond.
Right.
So what I have is rhetorical questions. My questions tonight is about the future of Fairfax. And that is, are we just going to be residential growth? We're going to keep all industry out? Why is the zoning committee only looking at data centers? Why not all industry? If the requirements mentioned are bad for us or the environment, then it should be bad for us no matter what industry, not just data centers. Limit to 10 megawatts? Why? Is Fairfax an electric utility? Why would we limit that? Or again, is that only limited to data centers? Are we going to fight any industry growth within several miles of the city? I don't believe we have an economic development committee, but I'm pretty sure we do have an economic undevelopment committee. It feels to me like the future of Fairfax is shrinking, not growing.
Anyone else?
Bob Hurst, 3388 73rd Street, Fairfax, on the corner of US Highway 30 and the county line, Benton County line. I was just at the city of Walford at their meeting, and I just want to share what they're thinking of. They're considering a motion approving a dollars Cooney engagement agreement regarding a data center ordinance for their city. They're adamant that they don't want data centers in their city. They reiterated that again. They said that last month, they reiterated again this month, but they're just trying to come up with an agreement that they can agree to and specify some of that stuff. So I'm just letting you know that your sister city is kind of in that realm too. So thank you very much for your work. Thanks.
Anyone else? We'll move on to mayor's comments. Thank you tonight, everyone. And just a final reminder of the July 28th special meeting. Rosina, do you have any additional comments?
Just just a suggestion for clarity for me. I'm apologize that I'm not more familiar with your procedures. So maybe we could take a look, or if there's some that you guys want me to reference on more specifics for motions and clarity of language within the meeting, so I can, better help facilitate a little better. So just an apology and a suggestion maybe for some standards that I could follow to help the meeting.
Okay, thank you. You're doing great. So we can provide you with feedback as well. Okay, need a motion to adjourn, please. Motion. All in favor? All right, thank you.